Hi guys, and welcome to episode 5 in our skill system series on UE4. Previously we set up the skill system component and the setup for the window with our skill tree for each of the categories. What we're going to do in this episode is working on the perk points and spending them to enable various skills. So let's get cracking with that. Now my perk points I'm going to store on the player. So I can either do it on a character, the player controller, totally up to you where you put it. I'm going to put it on the player. So on the first person character, we're going to go down into the variables here and we'll call it perk points. And we'll make this variable type a integer. And the reason why we're choosing an integer is because perk points will be whole numbers. So we don't need a float, we don't need anything else like that. And they're just whole integers. So integer is the best fit for that. We hit compile, and for the basis of testing, we're going to set the perk points default value to something like 15, and hit compile. We can close that, and now head over to our skill window UI. So this top text field we've got here saying perk points, we're going to add in a value here saying how many perk points we currently have. So let's go over to my details panel, and we're going to change the name of this text field up here, and we'll call it perk points text, and tick the is variable box. So it's important to note, if you're dealing with UI stuff, anything that is going to change in game, you need to make sure it is variable, otherwise you can't do nothing with it. So with that done, we're going to go over to the graph editor, and we're going to make a new function saying update perk points. And this is simply just going to get hold of the amount of perk points the player has and change it to match on the text. So before we do that here, let's go back to the event graph and look at the construct. On the construct, we're going to get the reference to the player character and store it. So right click and get player character, and cast that to the specific actor type of your character. Now it's important to note, if you plan on the player being able to change characters or get into vehicles and change whatever they're controlling, you may want to put the perk points or something similar on the player controller, because that will be the thing that goes with whatever they change to. If your player's just controlling one character the whole entire time, like in a game like Far Cry or Borderlands, things like that, then you're looking at keeping it on the player character if you want. So with that cast done, we can take this as first person character and promote that to a variable to store that reference for later use, like so. With that now stored, I can go back into my function of update perk points. So with that reference, I can drag my player character out and choose get, and then from here I can type in get perk points, and that gets that integer which is set up on the player character. Using this, we can build the text value inside our perk points text, which you can see now in the variable list. So drag that out and choose get, and then from there we can set the text value of that widget. So set text, and because we want it to show the number first and then the text, we're going to have to use the format text node. So for the in text, drag this out and do format text. And the way the format text box works is that you can type in a field here and set up parameters that will be inserted in to your text being displayed. So to insert a parameter, it's curly brackets. So I'm open curly bracket, and we'll put in num, and then close curly bracket, and then I'll type in the words perk points. And here you can see the num is now, when I hit enter, a parameter that I can insert a value into it. So I'm going to drag my perk points into there. And there you have it. This update perk points function is now complete. Hit compile, and then go back to the event graph. So with that done, we are going to close this and close that, and now go into not close. We're going to go back to the skill window. My bad. Where is it? On the graph, at the end of the set my player character on the event construct, just drag that function out so it sets it right at the start of the game. There you go. So now when I push play and toggle it on, it will say how many perk points I have. So I've got 15 perk points. So the trick now is that when I click on these buttons here, the cost of that will be depleted from the perk points, if the perk points are available. So on the skill button, let's go to the graph, and one of the things coming out of the break skill data structure is the cost integer, and that's going to be quite useful to figure out how many perk points the player has. So to do that, we need to actually get a reference to the player character. Now we've done it already on the skill window, we now need to do it here on the skill button. So on the construct or pre-construct, whatever you want to do, we'll do it on the construct. And on the construct here, we're going to get the player character and do exactly the same thing we've done on the skill window. So cast to first person character and store that as a reference by promoting it to a variable, naming it my player character. And with that now stored as a reference, we can now work on clicking the button and checking whether or not we have a cost available to us. So what I'm going to do here is on the pre-construct is I'm going to store this outrow data as a variable so I can access its stuff later on. So I'm going to move this across a little bit, and on outrow I'm going to promote that to a variable, and this will be, we call it skill data, and we can plug that in so that it's all connected up. I'm going to hit compile. So now I've got that skill data there stored, I can access it whenever I want. So whenever I want is when I click this button. So when I click the button variable on the left hand side, you'll see events come up at the bottom here. You'll see one of them saying on clicked. Click on the big plus arrow, and plus arrow, plus button, and you'll get the event created for on clicked of the skill button. So when we first click it, we need to first of all check how much it costs and whether or not we have the perk points available. So let's drag out my player character, and from there we're going to get perk points. We're going to get our skill data and right click split it and get the data cost. We're going to compare that with the perk points. So if perk points is greater than or equal to the cost, we can spend it. So let's go into a branch like so. And if it has got the cost, we're going to manipulate and change the perk points in the my player character. So go to my player character, get, and then from there we're going to set perk points, and we're going to take the perk points away from the current perk point value. So get my player character out and get the perk points current value minus and the minus value is going to come from the cost here. So you can just copy this over if you want, or you can just put it straight from there if you want the lines going everywhere. You totally can do that, but we'll spread out. We've got space, so that's fine. So put the cost in there and then put that into the set. So that will change the actual value, but it won't actually update the UI, because the UI is only going to update at the moment at the start of the game. We need to force it to tell it to call that function on the window. So to do that, we need to get a reference to the window. So hit compile on that and go back to your event construct. On your event construct, we're going to get the skill window set up and stored as a reference. On the event construct, we're going to get access to our HUD first of all. So get game mode and then cast to our specific game mode. And that has that reference to the HUD, which we need. So get HUD. Oh, not HUD, heads up display. There you go. And then from there, we can access the skill window. So I'm going to store this as a reference as well. So promote to variable, my HUD, because it could come in handy later. And then from there, we're going to get skill window UI and then store that as a reference as well by promoting it to a variable, my skill window. So just on the construct, just setting up all these references, and it saves us a lot of time later on because we've got them now stored. We can now call them wherever we like. So back on our skill button being clicked, after we change the perk points on the player character, we can get the skill window out and tell it to update the perk points there. And click compile. We now close this and push play. And now I can click on these buttons and it will take away the cost of each of the perk points away. But if it doesn't go below 0, if the value is too much. So that is enabling the cost being depleted from the perk points. Now we need to actually enable the skill button itself. So when I click on it, I want to say enable double jump. Let's do that one first of all. So when I click on the skill button, we need to add the skill to the skill system. So after we've done the true update perk points, we're going to drag my player character out. And remember, way back when on episode 1 and 2, we set up the player character with the skill system. So my player character, we can now get the skill system component and tell it to add a skill. And the skill name is the row name of a skill. So drag in your string and connect it up. So now that skill has been added to the player character, meaning that any query into that skill will now return true. However, let's say double jump, okay? So double jump we've done in our test back in episode 2, where we've done the query skill on the event begin play on the player character. Now, this works on begin play when we start the game. However, when we click on the button, it may be the first time we click on it and then the game obviously has already gone past begin play. It's not going to call this thing again. So we need to tell it to check its skills and update its skills and refresh it and see if it needs to change things. So we need to trigger this event again. So what we're going to do is going to set up a simple function on here. So we're going to do custom event, and we'll do this one update jump skill. And update jump skill is going to be connected to let's do this as a function. It's better there. So we're going to do update jump skill, and we're going to copy this code here, or cut it and put it into this function. Then on event graph on begin play, we can drag that function out onto it. So once we update the jump skill there, go back to our skill button, and we need to tell the player in general that we've updated skills. We can't do it for every single skill. Well, you could do, it would take a long time if you've got a lot of skills, adding in individual functions for update this, update this, update this, update this. So what we're going to do is to call one function, which triggers then all the other functions on the player character. So what we're going to do here is set up a overall function which updates all the skills at once if they need updating. So let's go to a new function and call it update skills. And in there, we're simply going to drag in update jump skill. Now, when you have multiple skills set up, we've only got one set up at the moment, but all of them will have their own function and added to here, just in a chain all the way along. On the event graph here on begin play, we can get rid of the update jump skill and just put in update skills. Back on the skill button, we can now just drag my player character out. Oh, sorry, get, not set. And tell it to update skills. And hit compile. And there you go. Hit save, and we can now close this. So let's say, for example, the double jump. So I hit play, and I look for my double jump, which is this one here. I click on this and cost that, and then T off. I can now double jump. I've now acquired that skill. And that's it for this episode. All you have to do for each of your skills is go around and just add in the update skill buttons, functions to the various places. So if it's the player-centric ones, most of them are going to be player-centric because you're updating something on the player, like their health, damage, regeneration rate, all that stuff on the player. But there may be some other things as well, but for now, most of the time, it's just going to be there. But that's only for active abilities. If you're doing things like world queries don't matter because they'll be checking the query system as of and when. So that's it for that's part of the UI. In the next episode, we're going to make it so that when we look at our skill tree, all these will be grayed out. And if we have the perk points, they'll be available for us to click on. And when we click on them, they'll change into this coloured version. So we're going to make them change colour based on whether or not they've been enabled. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to watch that next episode right now, you can head over to patreon.com/RyanLaley, where just $1 will get access to that video, plus many, many others. Big thank you to all my patrons for their continued support. None of this would be possible without you guys, so thank you so much. If you're watching this and have yet to subscribe to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It will help me out massively. And if you like what I do and want to suggest future content, leave a comment below and I'll give it a read and see what I can do and add it to my to-do list. Thanks again everyone for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.